Here's a UPS that I just got for free, and I intend to experiment with a little bit. And I had one of these before that was given to me, and I don't know what happened to it. I probably ended up throwing it away. Never did anything with it. But I actually had some huge ones too. Some huge rack mount ones that weighed a couple of 100 pounds, and used 48-volt batteries, and I still have probably one of those. I sold some of those and traded some of them off and so on. This was years ago, but and I took a couple of them apart, I think. And but like I said, I probably still have at least one of them. But this, I've been wanting to get a small one like this to tinker with, because I've seen some of the hacks that that people have done in other YouTube videos where they use them as a DC power supply, a battery, you know, with a built-in charger, and tap into the battery, either pull wires out of it to connect a larger battery and use the charger that's built in, whether or not they actually use it as a uninterruptible power supply, which is what it's designed to be. But even if you don't use it for that, it's nice to have that inverter that's built into it. But one thing that they're not really designed for, but some of the hacks I've seen are, like I said, they're using them for a 12-volt power supply with battery backup and a charger, so that they can run, you know, 12-volt items like radios or whatever off of it. And like I said, you can either pull wires out of it and connect it to a larger battery, or you can use the original battery or an original replacement and just run wires out of it for your 12-volt supply, for your, you know, to power whatever. And since I've seen some of those videos, I kind of wanted to try that. And I've had my eyes open looking for one of these for free, that because people usually just throw them away. They have sealed lead acid battery in them, and what happens is most people use them, and you know, they use them for their intended purpose. You know, the power goes off, it allows them to safely shut down their computer, and the power comes back on, and you know, and it sits there plugged in and being used day in and day out, and it usually lasts a few years, and then eventually the battery just gets to where, you know, the battery goes bad, it reaches its end of life, and so they buy a new one and throw it away. Now that's fully understandable, because I looked this particular model up and I found them for about $45, and $45, $45 to $50 in free shipping, so that's pretty hard to beat. And since a replacement battery is probably going to cost you $20 shipped, or pretty close to it, you know, it's understandable why people would just throw it away if they're using it for its intended purpose, and replace it with a new one. But I saw one of these in a business that I frequently visit, and I actually noticed it just a few weeks ago in use. I happened to notice it, and I thought, huh, I'm still kind of watching for one of those. Hopefully somebody's going to throw one of these away somewhere, and I'm going to be able to pick it up and for free, and take it home and tinker with it. Well, I was in that business yesterday, and I saw this sitting in the hallway to be thrown away. The same one I had noticed in service a couple of weeks ago. So I asked about it, and sure enough, it had become intermittent. So it was still kind of working, but not reliably. And I asked if I could have it, and was told yes, sure, take it. So I took it. Now look at that. It powers up. I have not plugged it in. It was sitting there not powered up, just like I said, in the hallway, ready to go out with the trash. And I haven't plugged it in, but I did turn it on a little while ago and saw that the power comes up. And I'm sure that the reason it's flashing is because it's running on battery power right now. In fact, I'll tell you what, I started pulling the screws out of it, but I figured I'd start this first because you know, I wanted to make a video about it, because I'm gonna take the battery out of it and see what I can do with it. But let's plug it in and see what happens. Okay, it just clicked, so it's powered up. Everything appears to be fine. And as you can see, the light's no longer flashing. Let's unplug it again and see what happens. Well, I'm glad it doesn't have that annoying beep. Although there is a way to turn the beep off, and apparently that has been done. So let's go ahead and power it down. And now on to the tinkering session. So here we are about 5 minutes later, and I had already removed 2 screws. I removed the remaining 2 screws and pulled the bottom off. And there you can see the battery, which it fits up in there like that. But let's check the voltage. That's going to be the first test. Trying to turn this where it can be seen in the camera. Okay. $12.52. 12.52. So I would say that indeed the battery is at or near its end of life, because it should be showing at least 12.6, preferably 12.7. Now I'm going to do something that I do not recommend, and that is, now this thing, I don't know if that is to activate a safety switch or something. I don't see anything like that in there, but it could be. But no, I don't see anything like that. So anyway, like I said, we're going to do something I don't recommend, which is to power it up while it's apart like this. And I don't recommend that because, you know, you could touch the wrong thing and get shocked. But I'm going to try it and see what happens. I don't think there's a safety switch to prevent it powering up, but there might be. The reason I'm doing this is to check the battery voltage while it's powered on, and see if the charger is working, because it was 12.52. It should be over 13 volts. It should be at least 13.5 volts powered up. So I don't know. I guess there must be some kind of safety switch. But it's supposed to charge even when it's not powered up. Anytime it's got, I mean, even when it's not turned on. When it's turned off, it should still power up the battery charger. Now, whether or not that's true with the bottom off of it, we'll see. Okay. Answers that question, because it's reading 13.55 volts. So that means that the charger is working. Alright. That's a good thing. Okay, so now I'm going to move the battery outside the case. That'll be easy to do. Actually, I'll say move the battery outside the case. In reality, I'm going to use a different battery too. And this is a, I don't know if it's an SLA anyway, sealed lead acid. I don't know if it's a absorbed gas mat AGM or if it's a gel cell. But probably an AGM. But it's 12 volts, 4.5 amp hours. And I have another common size, which is 12 volts, 7 amp hours. And I'll probably connect that to it, since I'm not using it for anything else right now. So it had a switch right here to keep the battery disconnected until you insert this piece to connect the battery. And the only reason for that is to because it has to be shipped with the battery not connected, and the end user sticks that piece in there to connect the battery. So I'm bypassing that. Since there's no need for it, it's going to be a voltage drop, and you know, it serves a purpose for shipping, and if someone's just going to take it out of the box and use it, but since I've got it open anyway, I might as well eliminate that. And I'm going to just drill a hole through the side here, which is a vent grill anyway, and it's plastic, so I'm not going to worry about abrasion or anything like that. I'm just going to drill a hole to bring the wires out. Right about there looks good. Okay, good enough. You can see my huge soldering iron back here. I've got smaller soldering irons and small grounded soldering irons for electronics work, and including SMT work, but I use this big one for most wiring jobs. And I've got a piece of 12 gauge zip wire here that has one of these connectors on it that you used to could get pretty cheaply at Radio Shack. And I think Molex, or whoever made these, I think it's Molex, and I think they still make them, but as far as I'm concerned, they're pretty much obsolete because they're a whole lot more expensive now, so I really don't want to mess with them. So, since I'm not using this pigtail for anything else, I'll use it for this. I tied a big knot in it so that it doesn't pull through the hole and put strain on the internal wires. And I'm going to solder them and use heat shrink. That's actually marine heat shrink, which is you can get it at Harbor Freight pretty cheaply, and it works well. I've used a lot of it. Okay, so here we go. I've got my old, it's about, I think, 4, maybe 5 years old. 12 volt, 7 amp hour battery. And I put alligator clips on this, which is a temporary measure. And I'll probably eventually do something else, but this is so I can switch batteries around. But let's see what this battery is resting at. Put it so it's in the camera. .69. Okay, that's about where it should be. Okay, see if this thing powers up. Yep, there it goes. Look at the voltage again. .49. So it's drawing a little from it. It's gradually dropping. Okay. So let's plug it in and see what happens. By the way, that hanging onto a big metal object with one hand and plugging in with the other is a bad idea. But I don't have a whole lot of choice in this particular spot. Okay, so it's plugged in. It turned on. I never did see where the safety switch was in there, but apparently there is one, and apparently I turned it back on when I put the cover back on. So that's good. Okay, you can see it's at 13.2 and rising. So I would call that a successful hack. You know, in terms of what I've seen on YouTube, where people are using it to draw current from, you know, just basically using it to keep a battery charged. And I can probably connect something into that, a radio or whatever, and power it. But I probably will get a bigger battery. You can get a 15 or 20 amp hour pretty cheaply, and that's probably what I'll do. In fact, you can get a 30 or 35 amp hour, and if I can find one cheap enough, I might do that. I think that would be a good way to do it. Tell you what, let's check the inverter side of it while we've got it connected here. Now, this is not going to be the best DC connection as far as drawing current, but maybe it'll be enough for a 60 watt light bulb. So let's plug in. Turn it on. And now the way it is right now, it's running off line power. It's running on the grid, on grid power. So let's unplug it and see what happens. Okay, you can see the light there, so let's unplug it. Okay. So it does indeed work. Now it's back on. Okay, perfect. Like I said, I'll probably get a larger sealed lead acid battery instead of like a big deep cycle battery, because I mean, I've got a deep cycle battery I could connect to it, but it's not really what I need for the purpose I'm going to use this for. And I don't want to keep it connected like this, in fact, even though I soldered this. But I'll probably go ahead and put some spade terminals back on it, or whatever, ring terminals or something. If I get a battery that has stud terminals, then I'll go with ring terminals to connect it. But what I'll probably end up getting, though, is a larger battery that has the blade terminals like this. And so I'll just put basically the same type. In fact, I kept I cut the original connectors off of the wires from inside and left enough wire so I could resolder them to these wires. So that's probably what I'll do. So anyway, proof of concept. Thanks for watching. It's a few days later, and I've had this plugged in, but I just got a larger battery. Got that off Amazon, and I got the same brand. This 7 amp hour which is several years old and it's still good. It's an Expert Power, so I went for the same brand on a larger one. That's 12 volts, 7 amp hours. This is 12 volts, 18 amp hours. And it's got better connectors too for what we're using it for. So I'll put a affiliate link in the video description if you want to get one of these batteries. I'd appreciate you using that link because it'll help me out. So, that being said, let's go ahead and connect it. Okay, now we're going to cut it a little bit shorter. Might as well. About that long should be fine. Especially since I soldered these things on, so I want to have something long enough to solder some on the other ends and have some clip leads. So we'll do it about like this. I don't like to cut all the way through at once on this kind of wire because it'll cause a short if I do that. So and this does have charged capacitors in it, so it would kind of arc a little bit if I did that. Okay, now there we go. It did come with a pack of screws, by the way. I noticed that was a question that was asked on the Amazon reviews. Yeah, that looks good. Okay. Okay, so let's go ahead and start these screws. Now the way I'm putting it on here is the wire from the UPS is going to come, it's going to be on the side of the head of the screw, bolt actually. And it uses a ring terminal, and I'm using a flat washer, and then I'll use a flat washer and a lock washer on this side. And then a flat washer and a lock washer and a nut. The reason I did it this way is I don't know. Well, anyway, I'm going to have to put one of these on there. I thought about taking this one off here, and I might do that. But probably be better just to buy another one. In fact, buy one that has a flange so I can mount it somewhere. But this wire needs to not, the wires from the UPS need to not be disconnected. So by putting the head of the bolt on that side, I'll be able to loosen this and add, and I'm going to use this type connector for the output. So I'll be able to just loosen that and add or delete connections there without disconnecting it from the UPS. And I don't think I'm going to tighten it down all the way right now. I think it'll be fine to not do that. Now I checked the voltage of this battery out of the box, and it was 12.8. Now that I've got it connected, it'll be probably a little bit less because it'll be drawing a little bit from it. So let's look at it. Let's see what it reads. 12.8, 12.81. Actually, it's not drawing any because I thought about that just as I said it. But the capacitors are already charged, so therefore it's not drawing anything. Okay. Let's plug this in. Okay, now .9495 and rising, so it is charging it. It's bringing it up to the float charge voltage, and I already found out that as long as this is plugged in, it's charging. It turns on the charger even if the UPS, even if the inverter portion is not turned on. Whether it's on or not, the charger is on anytime it's plugged in. 1312. So it'll get up to about 13.55 or 13.6, and it'll hold it there. And that's correct float voltage as opposed to cycle voltage. Cycle voltage is where you use the battery without it being on charge and then charge it back up. Float voltage is where you keep the battery on charge all the time, and basically with a 12 volt lead acid battery, that means 13.5 to 13.8 volts is float voltage, and you don't have to worry about overcharging it. So I'll put this in there and use it as a backup for my computer. It's what it's designed for, but also use it as a uninterruptible DC supply. Thanks for watching.